Hi, everybody. I'm Steel Wagstaff, Pressbooks Product Manager. Welcome to our September 22 Pressbooks Monthly Product Update. I have a lot of things that we want to run through and share with you that we've released over the last couple of months. And first, I want to start with a couple of kind of developer notes. They're fairly important, but they're not really things that I want to demo or share. But if you're following from the open source community, you probably saw that we had a major release version of Pressbooks and several of our plugins. So Pressbooks 6.0 is what's considered a breaking release. Because we upgraded the application container and replaced the Blade template engine, this allows our developers to do more modern things with Laravel, which is a popular PHP framework. So we updated and upgraded that in Pressbooks Core, and then any of the Pressbooks plugins or themes that also used the Blade templating engine or an application container also had breaking updates. So you probably saw version 2 or version 3 of some of those. If you're not a developer, that probably didn't mean anything to you, and don't worry, it doesn't need to mean anything to you. But if you are a developer or running your own open source Pressbooks network, you saw an upgrade notice, and you saw that if you bumped to Pressbooks 6, you also had to bump other things. And other things, if you wanted to bump them, you also had to bump to Pressbooks 6. The other thing that we did is Pressbooks-book or McLuhan is the main Pressbooks theme. And there are two libraries that it depends on, pattern libraries and display libraries. So one of them is called Buckram and one of them is called Etna. They both provide base like style rules and elements that can be used across the theme design. We had kind of packaged them inside of McLuhan, but previously they had been standalone packages. We put them in McLuhan and then we've made them standalone packages again. If you've installed Pressbooks, you're hosting with us, you won't notice any difference, but we just moved them back into their open source repos, and we're going to be maintaining them outside of McLuhan or Pressbooks books for the future. The next thing I want to share are some of the updates that might affect you that you might be more interested to see. The first is that we use a subject taxonomy in Pressbooks called Thema. It is a subject category scheme that's designed for global book trade or internationalization. In the past, many different languages or nations maintain their own book categorization scheme. And so if you wanted to categorize books and sell them in France, you used one scheme. If you wanted to do it in South America, you used a different scheme. If you wanted to use them in England or the United States, you used a different scheme altogether. Well, Thema came around and they tried to, it's a global nonprofit organization that tried to unify these and say, let's use an international taxonomy that has versions available in many, many languages. So we've been using Thema for some time at Pressbooks, and there was a new release of Thema earlier this year, version 1.5. We have updated Pressbooks to use the new Thema subject terms. So you'll see, for example, lots of new, if you wanted to, you could read and see what all the new terms are. There's lots of information on their website if you're into taxonomies. But you'll notice, for example, in the subject and additional subjects, you'll be able to add lots of new subject headings or see some updates. So for example, these are all new subject headings that I've applied to this book. So progressive education is now new, or drag culture and performance, or green finance / sustainable finance, or decolonization and post-colonial studies. These are ways that you can describe the subject matter of your book that weren't available previously, but that have been added to the taxonomy recently. You'll notice if you do apply them in your book, the subject terms, just as before, you'll see them on the book's homepage in the metadata section. So here in this book, you were to scroll down and you'd see, here's my primary subject, and here's my additional subjects being displayed there. So we updated the version of Thema that we're using now. So you have those new terms and they're available now. If you're curious about how to better use Thema, there's a little helper here that lets people find the appropriate subject category lists. Let's say you've written a book about history of some kind. You could type in history and see all the different subject terms that apply to history. And maybe we'd say, oh, my book's actually about economic history. No, actually, it's about European history. So the right term I should use would be European history. And then if you wanted a note, it would say, oh, you're supposed to use this with a place or time period qualifier. So anybody who's done cataloging before, this is a really nice tool that helps you to decide what the right subject terms are. So librarians or network managers or even book authors can refer to this to help them know the right subject terms or appropriate subject terms for their books. Okay, the next thing that we did was we did a bunch of work to improve the accessibility of the export and cover generator pages. So I'll show you that next. Here in this book, what I'll do is I'll come into the admin panel and I'll show you the export page. So in the exports, you'll see lots of different options for the exports you can produce. And when you produce an export, you'll see all of the exports listed down below. We used to produce PNG images with the name printed on it. Now we've converted these to SVGs where the text is readable. We're now using an SVG. It's a scalable vector image, which is smaller and more performant. And the labels are now all more accessible on the SVG. So that was a small improvement, but hopefully appreciated. We did something similar on the cover generator page. So here on the cover generator page, if you were to generate a cover for this book and make a PDF cover. So now at the bottom, you'll see here's the cover and it will allow me to download or delete it. So if I were to tab over those things, they're all tabbable and they have hover states. So that's a fully accessible menu there that can be used by people with all different levels of ability on the computer. There were a couple of bugs that we fixed with the export routines, especially for EPUB and PDFs. So in this particular book, this is a little bit of an edge case, but you can see that I've put italics in the title of my front matter and my chapter and my back matter. And when that happens, previously the exports were breaking for the front matter and back matter. It wasn't rendering the italics, it was just rendering the tag. And the other thing that I've done is I've used a combination of numbered and numberless chapters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come into the export menu and I'll make a new EPUB and a new digital PDF, and I'll show you both of those. So this is using the Pressbooks export routine to make a new PDF and EPUB. And then we'll download the PDF that I just produced. And now you'll see, for example, when I come to the front part, this has italics and bold in the table of contents, and the numberless chapter does not have a number in the table of contents, and the numbering is preserved without them. And then if you were to look at the actual titles themselves, you'll see they're rendered with italics or with italics and bold throughout. So those are two bugs that we fixed in the EPUB and the PDF. You'll see those on your networks, and hopefully that's looking better for people who wanted to make EPUB and PDF exports with those particular features in them. Great. So Kathy asked, is there a way to have the subjects in the metadata, but not have them show on the title page? If, for instance, you live in a state which has legally weaponized certain subjects. Great question. Yes, actually you can. And let me jump out of order and show you how you might do that. What we did is we've now made it so that you can apply custom styles, not just to the book itself, but to the book's homepage. So one of the things that I did here was I entered a new rule, and I'll just show you what it looks like before. And we'll do this particular case. So here is what the homepage metadata section looks like right now. You can see title, author, license, primary subject, additional subject. So this is all displayed here. And the first change that I want to make is I don't like, so let's pretend that I don't like that this is all caps, and I want to make it just no ordinary regular case. So I'd look and find the CSS rule, and it says, okay, block subtitle has a text transform rule that I want to remove. So I'll come into custom styles and I'll add this rule and just say text transform none. The second question was, Kathy said, on this particular book, I want to hide the primary subject. What I do is I could just take this whole block and hide it or not display it. So let me focus on this class and PB additional subjects. So yeah, I could do that by doing this. That's the class name. And I would say display none.
Okay, excellent. So that leaves like the machine readable part of it intact.
Yeah.
Someone just looking for interesting phrases with their eyeballs is not going to see it.
Yeah, so here what will happen, well, I'm expecting two things to happen on the homepage now. The first thing I'm expecting to happen is that all of those headings that were previously uppercase are now regular case. And I'm also expecting that the subject ones are no longer visible because I've hidden them. And that did exactly what I expected because I'm applying custom CSS. So if you were to explore the DOM or the metadata, so here, if we were to look for the metadata, I don't remember where subjects are, but you can see that the div is still here. It's just not being displayed because it has display none. And if I were to put that CSS row back, here it comes, and then there it goes. Okay, look, here in my application, my metadata here, I've got progressive education. It probably also appears somewhere else in the metadata as well. That would be how you can apply custom CSS to your books. Another thing that you may want to do is we added this banner across all the books recently. We were intending to help notify authors and other people that they can clone and use open licenses. It's partially meant to be an education about what open licenses are and do. Some people don't want those displayed on their books. So you can, obviously you can just dismiss it by clicking that X and it goes away for you as a user. You can dismiss it from your book entirely with CSS, or we've now added the option, if a network manager requests it, we can remove it globally as Pressbooks staff from a network entirely. So I would just show you, if I wanted to remove this from a book itself, I can just show you how you could remove it from your book with CSS. You say, oh, there's a class called CTA. So I'd come to my book homepage, CSS, and then we would say CTA. Actually, I already have a rule that says display none, so I would just add the CTA class to that. And maybe I'll take the subjects out because I do want to display them. And here we'll notice now, on this particular book, the CTA will no longer be present. So when I come back, you'll see no more banner call to action. But at the bottom, we see primary and additional subject again. I also saw in the chat, there was a feature request, which was, could Pressbooks display the year of publication on the title page? We've run into issues generating citations. It can be difficult to quickly determine the year of publication. When you say title page, are you talking about in the exports, Cheryl?
No, in that metadata section, I'm probably using the wrong terminology.
Oh, here,
where,
yeah.
Yes, right there would be awesome if it could display there.
Yeah, we could add a date published. Is that what would be helpful, like publication date?
It would, yeah.
Sure, that's a great feature suggestion. I'll write that down as soon as this meeting's over. If you wanted to get to it before I do, we have an ideas forum in GitHub. I'll just share it so that people on the recording can see this. If you have good ideas like this, anybody who wants to can always come to Pressbooks Ideas and github.com Pressbooks Ideas. Click on the Issues tab and then create a new issue. This idea is display publication date on book homepage as part of metadata section. And normally I'd fill in this section, but I'll say requested by network managers would help people trying to produce citations. So here's a feature idea that I just submitted, and I will ask the product manager, Steel, to review that. So there we go. All right, now what was I going to show you next? We fixed a small bug that was affecting network managers in a few cases where, as a network manager on a Pressbooks network, you have a user list, and there is the ability to bulk delete users. It had broken briefly. So here I have 4 users that are users that I don't want on my network anymore. And instead of deleting them one by one, actually, let's do a bunch of them. Let's do all of these users. The bottom here, there's a bulk action that says delete. If I do this, it will allow me to delete them from my network all at once. So it comes and says, what do you want to do with them? And it doesn't really matter what I do with them, but I'm going to say confirm deletion. And now I have just removed 8 or 9 users, cleaned them all up at once. So that feature now works again as expected. And it was briefly not working. Okay, then the next thing I want to show is at the network root level itself, you're going to know if you're a network manager, you can create a number of pages that are different than your homepage. So on your homepage, when you go to customize, you have a banner image, the header image, we call it. So the header image by default is this kind of geometric shape. And you could upload a new image, like if you wanted this library's images, you could say, oh, let's use this image, and it would replace it. That's not going to look really good because the colors don't display nicely on that. But you can use any header you want, but that only affects your homepage, as you know. The root site also has many other pages, or it can create as many pages as you want. So for example, we're going to come into about. Normally, when you create a new page on your Pressbooks network, you'll have a little page here. And when you view the page, normally you'll just see all of your pages have the same template and they have the same geometric background. People have been asking us for a long time, can we customize the background here? We'd like to put different banner background images on our root home pages. And up until now, the answer was no, sorry, Aldine doesn't support that. Aldine doesn't support that. But we recently released a new release of Aldine that does allow you to put individual header images for any one of these pages or to use the same. So here in the page editor, you'll see a little tool that's down the bottom right that says featured image. If you set a featured image, we will use it as the banner image on your site. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to go to my computer. I'm going to upload a new file. I think I prepared one in advance. Great. And I'm going to set this as my featured image. So it's like a gray texture. When I click update and save this page, that banner image or background image for that site will be replaced with the new image that I just uploaded. So ta-da, I've used that nice gray texture color. I can do the same thing, say, for my help page. If I wanted a different one for help, this one I'll remove and I'll add blue shape. Or let's do this one here. I already got this one up. So I've set a new featured image and I'll update it. And just as before, you'll see that this now becomes the banner image on that page. So the help page now has this geometric shape for help. So that's a feature that's available to all network managers. It's on your networks right now. You can customize that and do what you want with it. Okay, now I come to the point of the meeting that's the most exciting part of all. And I want to highlight contributions that a few people have made, especially before I start. The first is Michelle. Michelle, do you want to unmute and say hello?
Hello.
So Michelle is the UX UI designer at Pressbooks, and over the past several months, Michelle has been conducting user research. We've talked with a lot of you about what you want your network catalog to do to showcase your books. And we have been working, Michelle's been hard at work on designs and implementation. And we have been doing beta testing. Is there anything that you wanted to share or that you wanted to add, Michelle, about the beta testing or the design work we've done for the catalog before we demo it?
It's been really awesome working on it, and I'm so glad we've made so much progress. And I'm really happy for all the feedback anyone has given us over the course of the last, I guess, few weeks and months. So thank you.
What we've done is we've built a replacement for the old Aldine catalog. And the way that it works is if it's activated in your network right now, it's been activated for the networks that are beta testers for us. But in the next week, we'll have the first public release and we'll activate it for everyone that we host for. And open source users will be able to download, install, and start using it. The way that you make this work is you pick a page. So let's pick the Utopos University Press catalog page. And the first thing that you do is you apply the template catalog to it. That's going to tell this page, display my new catalog on it when the plugin is activated. Now that it's a catalog page, you also have the ability to enter text in the top, which will be displayed as information about your catalog. So I've added some fake filler text here, and I'm going to click update. So that would be how you prepare the text of your catalog. And then I'm going to view my catalog. So this is the new network catalog. You'll notice that it has a display area here in the top with the custom text that I've provided. There is a background image which can be customized using the feature that I just showed you. So I'll go back a bit and I'll replace this default with a different image. Let's go ahead and use this one, this dark blue one. And then I'm going to give you a tour of the catalog. So here we have a new background image. Here's my catalog. And then in the catalog, you'll see this looks and functions much like the Pressbooks directory, but it's just for your network. So the first thing I might want to do is search, and you'll see I have 15 results per test. So I can see I have 15 test books. I can choose to display, let's say, 20 results on a page so that I no longer have to have pagination. Right now it's reloading every time, but we're working on that. And then the other thing I could do is I could sort them alphabetically. So I've just changed the number of results that display, and I've just changed the sort order. And you can see I've got 15 results now in alphabetical order, and it's going to display some information about these books. Well, right now I don't have all of the books in my network displayed here. So what I want to show you next is, as a network manager, you decide which books are showcased and which books aren't. So I'm going to come in as a network manager, and I'm going to come to my book list, and I'm going to basically, what I'm just going to do is go wild and add almost everything to my catalog. So I'm going to display 100 books at a time here, and I'm going to select all of them. You probably wouldn't do this quite so willy-nilly, but I'm going to say, okay, these books, I'm going to add them all to my catalog. And I'm going to say book action, add to catalog. If you didn't want to do a book action, there's a little column where you can click the box and add it, remove it to the catalog using this. Books can be added or removed from the catalog just using this visual icon here. You may have to scroll to the right to see it on your screen because there's a long column. Any questions that other people wanted to ask while we wait?
This is Kathy Slurgan. I have a quick question. So when is the subject searching the titles or the subject metadata? I haven't gone back in and done any troubleshooting since I ran the test last week, but when I
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll show you that in a second. So you did some beta testing for us, Kathy, you're referencing that. And I'll show you how the search works just when I get back to my screen here. But the basic idea is if there's metadata in the book, the search will search it. So it will search subjects, it will search titles, it will search descriptions. It won't search the full text of the books, but it will search any of the metadata, I believe, in the book card.
What's the default sorting? I'm just curious because I know on the current catalog, it just goes by most recently published.
Yeah, it's going to be most recently updated will be the default sorting. Your most recent books, the ones that have been updated last, will be at the top. I'm going to go back and share my screen again and show you some of these other features. What I've just done is I've added tons of books to my catalog. So now I have 124 results. Here's an example of a proper book. So this is a book, and you can see here's the title of the book, which will link to the title. It will show you the license, the language, the author, one or more subjects, who published it, when it was last updated, and then here's the description. What we're going to do by default is display 4 lines and then line clamp it. We will pull from the long description if it exists. If no long description exists, we will display the short description instead, and there will be a read more button that lets you expand and collapse the card. So that's the basic metadata and information that's displayed on the card. You'll see on the left, there'll be filters. So for example, now I want to search for history, and I can see I have at least one history of art book. So I could apply that filter and filter just my history of art books. Cheryl asked a great question, which was, has anyone developed a checklist to complete before a book is added to the catalog or published? I think a couple of those exist, Cheryl. That might be a great question for the network manager or for the network manager forum. Amy or Jocelyn might have a better answer for you, or connect you with someone who does. I'm pretty sure that some schools have their own pre-publication checklists. Mike, do you have an answer for what you do at Ohio State?
Do we have an official checklist? I'm not sure because I'm a bit removed from the working with faculty directly point, but I believe my colleagues who are more of the project managers on those books do. I know we at least do an accessibility check. That's a big one on our end.
This is not exactly a checklist, but I'll share this anyway. Cheryl, in our guide, we have a chapter about adding relevant metadata. This is really important for both the directory and probably for your network catalog. So this was written sort of like, here's a very bare, basic, sad looking book card. And then here's the 5 fields you need to add to make it look nice. So that's a pretty simple checklist. And then I think there might also be, I can't remember, there might also be a publication checklist on one of these about making your book accessible and inclusive. We talk about some things that people can do here for the web and for the PDF.
We do have a similar guide. That reminded me, Steel.
Okay.
We have a thing that we call our metadata, but it only applies to it walks people through finalizing the book info page, and we have a kind of stoplight system of required, recommended, not recommended for authors to use. I should put that in Pressbooks.
Yeah.
Just a PDF.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. So the other thing I want to show is, I guess you can just see that there's many different filters available. In addition to the subject filter, there's a license filter. There is a last updated date picker. We're going to be replacing the last updated date picker with a different one, but the functionality will be very similar. You can also now look by institution. So this is helpful, particularly for consortial clients. So we have consortial clients where they have, say, 10 universities sharing a Pressbooks network, and they'd like to make a catalog for each university. Well, rather than making separate catalogs, you can simply just make your, click a school and click that link. It'll have a permalink, and that will be all the books that that institution has published. You can do the same thing with publishers. So if multiple publishers are sharing the same network, that is also available as a filter. And finally, there's just a simple yes/no filter for H5P activities. When I apply this filter, what you'll see is all of the books that have H5P activities will be filtered, and you'll see how many they have right here. Our intention is to make this a link that points to the H5P listing page, but we haven't implemented that quite yet. So that's a kind of overview of the catalog that's coming. This has been something we've worked really hard on. We have a lot of kind of feedback from others, but we would love to get more feedback from you soon. We're going to be releasing and deploying this in the very near future. And that's something quite excited to be sharing with everyone and hope that you enjoy and give us feedback at and appreciate as much as we have had making it. Today's a very big day for our longtime individual users. So for the past 10 to 12 years, we have hosted a huge Pressbooks multi-site network at pressbooks.com. So people had books like book.pressbooks.com or guide.pressbooks.com or whatever your title was, .pressbooks.com. Over time, that had grown to well over 100,000 titles, of which a huge percentage were spam or spam users. And there were a bunch of things that had been around since the beginning of Pressbooks that made it very difficult for us to maintain or update. It also had a really different and sometimes confusing pricing model that didn't match the way that we hosted things for other people. And so we had announced several months ago that we were going to be retiring and no longer hosting books at pressbooks.com and another similar network that was like an Ingram Spark collaboration for self-publishers. Instead, we had a new service called pressbooks.pub, which is more modern and cleaner. It has a bunch of new features, including all of the educational features that our institutional clients love and appreciate. That has a subscription-based model, and we had offered free migration services for anyone who wanted to move from the old pressbooks.com and Ingram Spark to the new pressbooks.pub service. The deadline for that is this afternoon at 4 p.m., so coming up in a couple hours. By the time you watch this recording, the deadline will have passed, and we will begin deleting books from pressbooks.com and Ingram Spark this afternoon. If people had public, openly licensed books on the old service, we will migrate all of those and continue hosting those free of charge, even if a person doesn't have a subscription. In a read-only state as a public good, we want public, openly licensed material to continue to be available. We don't want to disrupt people who are relying on this for teaching and learning purposes, but we do need to stop hosting books at that URL. So that's going to happen very soon. And there's been a lot of comms and a lot of effort and a lot of information about that. There is still a fair amount of misunderstanding or miscommunication and some confusion. So if you have any users who contacted you saying, oh no, my books are going to be deleted, please help them realize this only applies to the old books at pressbooks.com. It does not apply to any of the many other Pressbooks networks like the ones that we host for your institution or any of the open source networks that other people are hosting. It's simply that very old pressbooks.com service for self-publishers, which is being retired, but has been replaced by an alternate. And we have been offering free automated migration to the new service. So hopefully everyone who wants to have done that will have chosen to do that by now. And if they have questions about it, they're welcome to contact us at our feedback email, and we will try to respond to them and help them and get them where they need to go. So that's been a big, huge undertaking. Yes, migration would be opt-in. There are many, many people whose books don't want to come to the new service, or whose books are spam, or whose books should be deleted. So people who have used Pressbooks to create an EPUB or PDF don't need to keep an active Pressbooks account. If they're a self-publisher, they're like, I did what I wanted to do. My book's for sale on Amazon. You can safely delete that book and nothing needs to happen. If you want to use Pressbooks to make more edits or to make new export files, that would be why you'd want to migrate to the pressbooks.pub service and have an active subscription until you no longer needed to do that, at which point you'd cancel your subscription, stop paying for it, and we would either delete the book, or if it was public and open licensed, host it indefinitely for free. That's how it's going to work. Hopefully that answered those questions, Simon, or any of the others had. And I'll pause the recording again and stop there. I want to say thanks everybody for attending. We appreciate you coming out. Thanks for all you do to further publishing and open education, and we'll see you next month.